Marvel Studios revealed a third season. They're working on a third season of X-Men 97. It's in development already. And as we've all kind of talked about here on Discord or Instagram or chat, whatever it might be, a lot of this is rooted in nostalgia for tons of us. Seeing our favorite characters, hearing the theme song, seeing the characters, all of that is just doing something for millions of people who are just fans of mutants and fans of the X-Men. But gentlemen, let's just talk about this for 1 second. And Nero, I'll throw this over and start with you. The big question here is, when is a nostalgia grab too much?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. It's one we posed up on Discord for ourselves. And in thinking about it a lot, it really feels like you have to strike that balance between creating something new and still giving that fan service, right? Because I know a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, if we take other examples of nostalgia grabs, not just X-Men 97, but things like Multiverse of Madness with, the other characters coming back from the multiverse. When we get Deadpool and Wolverine, the nostalgia grab with Hugh Jackman. Excuse me. When we got No Way Home and we got all three Spider-Man, that's a nostalgia grab, right? It's bad. And I think Rome's you said it very well, actually. It's bad when it's worse than the OG, right? Clearly it's bad, but that also comes down to, like I said, how well do you strike that balance? And I think X-Men 97 is that perfect example of creating something new while still paying attention to what made it great. And they're paying attention to it in so many other things, not just the old animated series. This goes into video games. The amount of Easter eggs that we've seen, much less slight spoiler if you haven't seen episode 3, the huge amount of video game Easter eggs that we get in that alone. Stories from comic books, stories from the animated series, all that plays into how good it's going to feel. And I think X-Men 97 is probably, as of right now, the perfect example of a nostalgia grab and how to execute it right.
Very well said.
Yeah.
They've been freaking killing it. Killing it. Just even their social media has been on point when it comes to marketing for the series and the marketing that they still do now throughout the episodes. Just them like putting their logos in like the box TVs just to promo it, like people still watch TVs and on those box like non-flat screen TVs. Between that and just the whole like honoring the theme song, opening, ending, outro song, like they could easily just come up with a new futuristic, like whatever day and past credit sequence. But the fact that they went out to make it all 90s theme to like keep up with it, whoa, amazing. Freaking amazing.
When you can follow up saying they're doing a good job, it's amazing. It's you speak positively from that standpoint. It doesn't come just because someone did research and they're like, hey, this is what we should do. This is what's going to make people want to watch this and stay up until 4 a.m. or wake up at 5 a.m. to check it out. A lot of this stuff, if you think about it, the people who are in these positions now to be the creators, the writers, the producers, this is a lot of what they grew up on, were 80s and 90s cartoons, anime, manga, comics, all of that kind of stuff. And I think there's something to be said when you're younger and you've immersed yourself in this and you feel what good stories are, and you can go back and look in 70s and 80s and that stuff carries over to you. It's an organic creation of just high level abilities to recreate this, because you got to think a lot of these people are putting pen to paper, and what's flowing out is just sourced from way back when. So when you're the one who's doing the recreation, it's just like exactly like we have smiles on your face. You're happy, you're excited, you're running around the room, you're hitting people up, and you're just like, how good was this? And how can we respect that and carry that forward? Because now, for those that are younger who are watching 97 and those types of shows, that's going to be their foundation for 20, 30 years down the road when they're kind of doing a nostalgia grab and type that kind of stuff. And it just shows you what a good foundation and what good source can be. But to what you guys are saying, when it's too much, I think you try, like, to me, too much of a nostalgia grab is like Sony. And they're like, here's a spider emblem. And they're like, ooh, that's going to be great. And you're just like, Uncle Ben, I see Parker. And he's just like, great power, great responsibility. Like, get out of here with that. That's when that's a mess.
I was legit going to bring Madam Web up. That and Flash.
Oh,
I don't even want to talk about the whole Chrono Void CGI AI BS, but talk about nostalgia grab being too much. That one was definitely too much. Oh my, nobody reacted very positively to that at all.
Yeah. I'd also say if you look at other negative examples, it's also when you don't realize the limitations of the nostalgia. And what I mean by that is nostalgia is only going to carry you so far. And I look at it in the sense of things like very late sequels to beloved movies. And the one that I'm thinking of just right off the top of my head is the last Matrix that came out. Where in theory we know that Keanu is a little older, but we've seen what he's able to do with things like John Wick. So we know that he's capable of doing stunts, maybe not the same as before, but we know what they're capable of. And in terms of technology, they're capable of so much more. And that's what made the original so beloved by a lot of people. But when you change your main character to be this completely other person that we don't know, and you strip them away of what made them cool and you know what we want to see in certain ways, we know that we're not going to see it the entire time. But if you strip it away, then it doesn't feel good. You know, it feels really bad. I take wrestling, for example, where another great example of someone who did a great nostalgia play, maybe recency bias, but Sting. He knew his limitations, and he knew that, hey, I can't do a singles match, but you know what I can do? I can work with 3 other people to tell a story, and I'm still going to do the absolutely crazy things that I want to do, but within what I know I can. And it created I think one of the best older runs that we've ever seen. But when someone doesn't really understand that they can't do certain things, or when the creators don't show that same love, then it just kind of it just feels dumb. It feels really dumb. Another bad example is probably the Terminator movies after 3, where they're like, hey, you remember the good guy from, you know, the entire series? Well, he's back now. He's a Terminator. Why? Because we want him to be. Or how about, remember Terminator 2, the movie that you loved? Well, guess what? John is still dead at the end of it because they just sent another Terminator. Haha. And it's like, that's dumb. That's really dumb. You know what you're playing with.
Go ahead, Spider-Man.
Sparked a massive idea in my mind when you brought up Terminator. I don't know how it correlates, but I have a question for y'all. Can we consider the Star Wars sequel trilogy nostalgia grabs now? Especially that Palpatine shit in episode 9.
Okay.
Ooh.
Here's the biggest offender in my mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's one-liners and costumes. When you dress a character up and try to make them like, you know, that initial scene of way back when, and you're like, oh my gosh, that looks so cool. and then they drop that one line and you're like sick, but they don't act or do anything that ever followed up what they did in the past. For me, that's when I'm like, yeah, I don't love this too much.
Valid.
I'd agree with you, Spider Brando. I think they are.
Somehow. I'd say
Somehow.
definitely the Palpatine one. The moment alone is nostalgia grab. But I could argue episode 7 is a little bit of one because it's very, very similar to episode 4 plot wise.
I'd say they all are, to be honest. And here's the thing with Two Realms' comment. I think an audience can know when something is nostalgia bait. For example, No Way Home we knew it. We knew it. There was no hiding how much of a nostalgia bait it was. They're like, hey, here's Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. Here's Molina's Dr. Octopus. Here's Jamie Foxx's Electro. All the villains you wanted to see. Here they are. We knew, but we still bought into it because it was something we really wanted to see. And everybody bought into the Star Wars nostalgia grab. But when it wasn't doing what it was supposed to, for example, in episode 8, it was where Luke doesn't behave like Luke for 95% of the time that he's on there. And then they're like, okay, we're going to give you the fight scene that you want to see. We're going to give you Luke and Kylo. And we're like, oh, give it to me. And then they're like, oh, he's a ghost. By the way, he dies because that tired him.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
We need to do a Star Wars redo.
Bro, that would take like 10 years.
Don't do
On
a
just
redo.
7, 8, and 9 alone.
Don't do a redo. Throw them in the bin. Pretend they never existed, and move away from Skywalkers. I think that's what they need to do. If you want to fix Star Wars, move away from the Skywalker stuff.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
Okay. Real quick to kind of cap this nostalgia grab conversation off. I think Realms makes a pretty good point. For you guys, is there a difference between nostalgia and fan service? Because I think No Way Home is a really good example of that, where people are like, they're just pandering to the fans. It's fan service, but then people are like, that was like deeply rooted in nostalgia. Are they one and the same? Are they different? Because I think people use those interchangeably.
I have my quick thoughts just because it's fresh. I think they're definitely different. A perfect example would be Flashpoint, or not Flashpoint, Flash movie.
You say trash?
No, the Flash
my bad.
movie.
My bad. Yeah, my
Oh no, I see what you're saying now. But it was like the executives are probably like, oh my god, these people are gonna love seeing all these characters, all these old like Superman, Batman, OGs. I mean, this will be ultimate nostalgia or fan service, but no, damn. I'm screwing up what I was thinking of now. I was getting them confused. The point is, I do think there's a difference, and it's just how it just comes down to execution for the both of them, essentially. Because like they thought it was gonna be nostalgia, but it more came out as like crappy fan service to the public's reaction. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But like you could say they intended it to be fan service in hopes of getting this nostalgia effect, but it did not work out and turned into the crappy fan service.
Well said.
I don't know
Well
if any
said.
of that makes sense, but
No,
my
dude.
mind works in weird ways.
Nostalgia is a feeling. It just kind of takes you somewhere.
Yeah.
That's fan service. I don't know. I throw that more into the looks category. I'm like, that was cool, but nostalgia is just like, bro, caresses me and just takes me somewhere, and I'm like, I don't ever want to go back.
Nostalgia is kind of one of those, like, it treats you nice. You know, it takes you out to dinner.
Oh yeah.
You
5
know, and
star.
it's like, I love you, you know?
Yeah.
I love you. And then
Yeah.
fan service is just like that instant hit where it's like, oh man, yeah, that was great. and then that's it. But nostalgia carries it forward.
Oh,
I like that.
I
I like
like
that.
that too.
I like that.